Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Scares, and Prayers. My name's Leslie, and yes, it is Native American Heritage Month. This segment is going to be a little bit overindulgent because I just have a lot to cover, and that is in reference to books. Actually, the whole segment, books, TVs, movies. I just went a little wild, so I am going to try to rush through this to make it a little bit cut down, cut down on time. Also, should I address this? I'm having a crazy hair day, and me and my hair made an agreement. It's all out of control, so accept what we don't have in control. All right, the first book, The Removed by Brandon Hobson. I think I grabbed this from a thrift store, and if I remember correctly, Russell from Ink and Paper blog talked about this book and they really liked it, and so I kind of just had my eyes peeled for this, and I happened to see it at my local, I want to say, secondhand bookstore and picked it up. I think that's where I got it from. I could be wrong. It could have been a little free library. One of those two. All right, and on the inside it says, in the 15 years since their teenage son Ray Ray was killed in a police shooting, the Ochoa family has been suspended in private grief. The mother, Maria, increasingly struggles to manage the onset of Alzheimer's in her husband, Ernest. Their adult daughter, Sonia, leads a life of solitude, punctuated only by spells of dizziness, romantic obsession, and their remaining son, Edgar, fled home long ago, turning to drugs to mute his feelings of alienation. So yes, this is fiction. And guess what I just learned recently from Shannon from SD Houston, who's an author that has a YouTube channel. She pointed out something to me, so now I'm gonna look at every single book and kind of try this out. On the corner over here it says a novel, and so Shannon was saying that whenever a novel is written on the book, it typically is literary fiction, and I never paid attention to that, and I just learned that, and I was like, okay, blown away because I'm so unobservant. I had to close the door because my cat opened it, of course. So give me one second. And I guarantee you, because I closed the door, they will start knocking and meowing. We'll see. Hopefully I jinx myself and it works out. This is nonfiction. Treuer Tears, The Rise and Fall of the Cherokee Nation by John L. This has been on my shelf for a while. Still have not read it. Also, just like The Removed, I have not read it yet. It's on my shelf, taunting me and saying, get your act together, Leslie. I'll just read a little bit about the author. It says John Ehle, a sixth-generation North Carolinian, grew up on the land once used as hunting grounds by the Cherokee. He is the author of 14 highly acclaimed works. His novel, The Winter People, has been made into a major motion picture. I have not seen that, but I'm sure you'll let me know if it's any good. There's also The Heartbeat of Wounded Need. Am I wrong? I think Margaret Pinard recently mentioned this. I don't know if I'm mixing it up, but this is by David Treuer, Native America from 1890 to the present. So this is also nonfiction. And on the back it says, David Treuer is Ojibwe from the Leech Lake Reservation in North Minnesota, the author of 4 novels and 2 previous works of nonfiction. He has written for New York Times, Los Angeles Times, The Washington Post. And a quick little synopsis in the back, it says, the long-held idea was that Native American life essentially ended with the U.S. Cavalry 1890s massacre of more than 150 Sioux at Wounded Knee. Melding history with reportage and memoir, David Treuer uncovers a different narrative in which the predations of each era also spawned new modes of survival. And it kind of goes on from there. I would say this is definitely up my alley when it comes to nonfiction. I like when authors create this, although it is nonfiction history, present day context and also including themselves in the narrative and the impact. That is also a technique that Thomas King also does. He wrote the book The Inconvenient Indian, and he did that. He did that style of nonfiction context plus memoir-esque in there. Another person, as you know, my favorite author that I won't shut up about, Hanif Durkee, he does that same technique. He writes collections of essays and such, contemplative pieces, and there's always this element of bringing himself into the narrative to like create this like emotional foundation and like current that goes throughout. And I think it is because of that style. And so I've been wanting to read this, haven't read it yet, but someone's got to. This next book, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be reading next year. If not in 2025, 2026, I have this logged in to read, and that's The Lost Journals of Sacajewea. And wouldn't you know it, it says a novel on there by Debra Magpie Earling. And on the inside it says, among the most memorialized women in American history, Sacajewea served as interpreter and guide for Lewis and Clark's Corpse of Discovery. In this visionary novel, acclaimed indigenous author Debra Magpie Earling brings this mythologized figure vividly to life, casting unsparing light on the men who brutalized her and recentering Sacajewea as the arbiter of her own history. And this is going to be incredibly important because what I remember in public school is just a very brief, clearly almost like propaganda version of what they really went through, which was absolutely terrible versus the story that we're kind of sold in school. So that's also one of the reasons that I really want to read this. The next book I also have scheduled for, again, this big project I have that's either 2025, 2026. And that is Highway of Tears by Jessica McDiarmid. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. A true story of racism, indifference, and the pursuit of justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And on the back it says, for decades, Indigenous women and girls in northwestern British Columbia have gone missing or been found murdered along an isolated stretch of highway known as the Highway of Tears. Journalist Jessica McDiarmid, I'm still saying it wrong. I'm switching around the consonants. Jessica McDiarmid investigates the devastating effects these tragedies have had on the families of the victims and their communities, and how systemic racism and indifference have created a climate in which Indigenous women and girls are over-policed yet underprotected. Highway of Tears is a piercing exploration of our ongoing failures to provide justice for the victims and a testament to their families and communities' unwavering determination to find it. So it says a little bit about the author. It says they're a Canadian journalist who has reported on human rights and social justice around the world. She grew up near the Highway of Tears and investigated the murders for 5 years. Highway of Tears is her first book. So, you know, this is like a very close to their heart story, you know. I'm on the last book section, okay? This is not written by an Indigenous author, I don't believe, but I'm going to explain why I'm bringing this up. It's called Scalped, and it's by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guera. I have the first volume. This is comics. Second volume, third volume. And then I stopped there. I need to read the rest, but if I do, I'm going to probably borrow it from my downtown library. This comic series had a pilot, so it was adapted to go to series, and then it fell apart. There were so many great actors. If you look it up on IMDb, you're gonna see all the different like Indigenous actors. that, I'm sure if you see them, you're going to recognize them from other movies. And so I'm just bringing it up because I'm hoping at some point this comic series will be adapted at some point and, just be stacked with indigenous writers. That would be really cool to see. So basically, the focus is on a reservation. There's also this kind of crime underbelly. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of what is that show called? Oh my God. I don't know why I'm forgetting right now. Breaking Bad. Sorry, that took too long. It reminds me a little bit of Breaking Bad. There's this this underbelly of crime going on. This also speaks to history of corruption, just American history in general, and how that's hurt Indigenous people, and how it affects all these characters. So you're getting glimpses of the present day and also the past and how they inform each other in this comic. It's very dark. That's why I keep thinking of Breaking Bad when I was reading it. And I kind of needed to take a break because the tone was just it was a lot. So yeah, with that said, that's the last of the book section. I'm getting my notes ready. I have so much stuff going on. And the rest, I'm going to talk about movies, television series, whether they're on or not, but I'll explain that when I hit this. This first one is a documentary. Gather. It's available on Netflix. It came out in 2020. It's an hour and 14 minutes, and it's directed by Sanjay Raul, who is known for Challenging Impossibility and 3100 Run and Become. It's an intimate portrait of a growing movement among Indigenous Americans to reclaim their spiritual and cultural identities through food sovereignty. And I love it because it's just a little over an hour, so it felt like accessible, digestible information. I didn't feel lost with anything, and it's definitely a very intimate portrait in my opinion, and so I really appreciated that. This is like a coming of age child story. This is so cute. I cannot stop gushing about it. It's definitely like a comfort movie for me. This came out in 2023. It's an hour and 23 minutes. It's directed by Billy Luther, who's known for Miss Navajo and Dark Winds. So yes, it's a coming of age story about a young boy who actually does not grow up on the res, but then he has to go to the res and kind of has some growth with the family that they spend time with. He loves Fleetwood Mac and watching VHSs. And again, it's on Netflix. So I'll read the synopsis because I just kind of went off trail there. Two adolescent Navajo cousins from different worlds bond during a summer herding sheep on their grandmother's ranch in Arizona while learning more about their family's past and themselves. Again, it's just so adorable, and I'm definitely gonna watch this probably this weekend because it was just so much fun. Now we have Dark Winds. It's available on AMC Plus, and currently the first season is available on Netflix. So this follows Leap Horn and Chi, two Navajo police officers in the 1970s Southwest that are forced to challenge their own spiritual beliefs when they search for clues in a double murder case. So I've seen a couple episodes and I've really enjoyed it. I need to kind of pick up on it because I think they're already in their second season and this is an ongoing series. And so I really need to hop on and see the rest. I think this is also something that Margaret Bernard saw not too long ago and was talking about. I think she already blasted through the first season because she really, really enjoyed it. Then we go to BackSpot, which is available for rent on Prime. This came out in 2023, starring Debra Jacobs from Reservation Dogs. This is about an ambitious cheerleader who faces both new adversity and the increased drive for perfection and triumph when she and her girlfriend are selected for an all-star cheer squad and its demanding head coach. Now, I'm not really into anything remotely sports related, but I genuinely enjoyed this. And speaking of enjoying series, this is a mini series. I started watching this the other night and I told myself I'm just gonna watch one episode. I ended up binge watching like 2 episodes and they're kind of long. They're not quite an hour long, but I was locked in. It was so good. All right, so True Colors is trying to look at my notes. Came out in 2022. It's a TV miniseries. And the representation here does have a fictional Aboriginal community that it's referred to, and then it says in the synopsis. Detective Tony Alma is assigned to investigate a suspicious car accident in Purta Theater. It's in Australia. So that area, that Purta Theater, is what's fictional. The indigenous community she left as a child and has had little to do with over the years. Now, if you like detective shows, you're gonna love this. But there's like this added layer of this character returning to their cultural community and I don't know if I'm gonna explain this right, but I think I found myself leaning into how this character is explaining, like, I want to say like a hierarchical structure in which people connect or do not connect. There are like just boundaries about who could talk to each other and why. And I found it really fascinating. And on top of that layer, the main character Tony has a detective partner that is a white male, but because he's a white male means he's not a part of the cultural community, and he could just move around in ways that Tony can't. And I find that so, I don't know, it's a bit of a head spin and like fascinating to see how they navigate an investigation. And so, yeah, that definitely had me all over that. All right, so there's this comedy called More Than Frybread. It's available on YouTube. It came out in 2011. I forgot if I said it's a comedy. And it's put on by Holt Hamilton Films. And it's about 22 Arizona tribal representatives convene in Flagstaff, Arizona to compete for the first ever annual State of Arizona Frybread Championship. And it was just like, you know what? Right now, we need comedy more than ever, which leads me to my last choice. Rutherford Falls. You've heard me talk about it before. I absolutely adored Rutherford Falls. It's still available to watch on Peacock. It came out in 2021 and it ended in 2022. So there's 2 seasons, and the creators are Ed Helms. He's, known for The Office. And then one of the writers, the additional creators are Sierra Teller Ornelas, and she's also like indigenous, and Michael Schur, who's known for being a creator on The Bad Place and The Bad Place, and I could be wrong. I think it was also The Office. It's been a while. Either way, I think this show is on par with The Good Place. Yeah, The Good Place. And so I wish it had lasted just as long as a show like that because it was so funny. If you like Gilmore Girls but with like the comedy sense of Gilmore Girls as well as The Office or The Good Place, this is it. This is like a small town and just like what they get what they get into politically, culturally, family dynamics, friendship dynamics. It's all taking place in this little like town, and it was just so adorable. And I'm telling you, I can't stop gushing about it. And I just wish that it had continued. And you're gonna hear me grumble about it again at some point because I just loved it so much. All right, everyone. I hope I didn't make this too long. I try to talk very fast because I realize I kind of was just overindulgent with my choices because there's so many great choices out there. If there's any other options, anything that you think people should be watching right now that has indigenous representation, please feel free to put it in the comments, and so as people traffic through, they could see examples of what's out there. Also, oh darn, I almost forgot something. I forgot. This is the second to last segment though. So next week, I don't know what I'm going to title it, but basically it's going to be people that it might include like storefronts, like bookstores, but I also want to put artists that make jewelry and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of things since December is just right around the corner. So just look out for that. And also in the details, I will be putting a link to the trailers for every single option I brought up for the television and movies and miniseries. So thank you for everyone for sticking around. If it's your first time here, please press the subscribe, like, and please comment below. I look forward to what you have to say in the chat. Bye.